I'm Dawn Murray, 34, a digital content creator from Madison, Wisconsin. My wedding day was supposed to be perfect white dress vows with my husband, the works. I spent months planning, dreaming my family would show up, smile, and celebrate. They didn't. Not a single call text or apology. My parents and brother skipped it like I was invisible again. It stung, but I moved on, built my life, and made millions creating content that millions love. Last month, I posted a photo of my new Tesla $120,000 fully loaded on Facebook. My phone stayed quiet for days. Then, out of nowhere, my mom called, her voice sharp. "Where did you get the money? Family meeting tomorrow." My stomach churned. They hadn't cared about my wedding, but that Tesla got their attention. I knew what they wanted: money, not me. But I had a plan, something they'd never see coming. Stick around to see how I turned their greed against them. Have your family ever ignored your big moments? Drop your story in the comments. I read everyone. Let's talk about it. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood in Madison, Wisconsin. Our house was a two-story brick home, the kind you'd find in any middle-class suburb, with a neat lawn and a basketball hoop in the driveway. My father, Philip Murray, worked as an insurance agent, days spent selling policies, evenings glued to football games. My mother, Joan Murray, was an administrative assistant at a local law firm, always busy keeping the household together, juggling bills and schedules. Then there was my brother, Brent, the golden child, who could do no wrong. Today, he's a lawyer, but even back then he was the star. And me, I was the younger sibling, always reaching for their attention like shouting into a void. At just 8 years old, I could already see the favoritism. When Brent's middle school football team won a championship, my parents threw a backyard barbecue for 50 people. Streamers, cake, the works. Neighbors clapped Brent on the back while Dad beamed, saying, "That's my boy." I stood by the picnic table clutching a soda, silently hoping someone would notice my new dress. No one did. A year later, I landed the lead role in my school's spring play. I rehearsed for weeks, imagining Mom and Dad in the audience. On opening night, I peeked out through the curtain, scanning for them. The seats were empty. Brent had a math test the next day, and Mom said they needed to help him study. I performed anyway, blinded by the stage lights but hollow inside. Brent's high school graduation was another spectacle. They rented a banquet hall, invited half the town, and Dad gave a speech about how proud he was of Brent's law school scholarship. I, just 14, sat quietly in a corner poking at my dessert. That same morning, I had won a statewide essay contest and brought home a shiny plaque. I showed it to Mom, expecting she'd pin it to the fridge. She smiled faintly and said, "That's nice, honey," before rushing back to party preparations. The plaque ended up on my dresser, gathering dust. Brent's trophies lined the living room mantel, polished like treasures. My artwork, report cards, even a poetry award never made it past my bedroom. One Christmas, Brent got a gleaming red bicycle with a bow on top. I got a sweater 2 sizes too big. "You'll grow into it," Mom said, already distracted by Brent's excitement. Once I asked Dad why they never came to my debate tournaments. He frowned and muttered, "We're busy, Dawn. Brent has college applications." I swallowed my words and slipped back to my room. The worst was my 16th birthday. I had dropped hints for weeks, hoping for something, anything to show they cared. That morning, I woke up early, put on my favorite jeans, and sat at the kitchen table waiting. Mom rushed Brent to a law school interview. Dad stayed glued to his phone with a client. By dinner, it hit me no one had even said happy birthday. Brent came home late, full of stories about his interview, and they all laughed over pizza. I ate alone in my room, the silence louder than ever. It wasn't just the big milestones. Little things piled up. Mom always asked Brent about his day. First, Dad always made time for Brent's games but never asked about my school projects. To neighbors, Brent was the pride of the family. Me, I was the other kid. Once, when a neighbor asked Mom about me, she just said, "Oh, Dawn's fine. She's quiet. Keeps to herself." That cut deeper than any absence. Brent himself wasn't cruel. He'd throw me a smile or a half-hearted good job when I brought home straight A's, but it felt like pity. He was too busy basking in the spotlight to notice I was fading into the shadows. Later, when Lori Gibson, his wife, entered the family, she fit right in showering Brent with praise and hosting dinners to celebrate his promotions. When their twins, Ella and Mason, were born during my college years, every family conversation revolved around them. I existed only when I was useful, like babysitting, so Brent and Lori could attend galas. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe my parents thought Brent needed them more with his grand ambitions and larger-than-life ego. Maybe they assumed I was fine because I never complained. But I wasn't fine. Every missed moment, every distracted nod chipped away at me. I began journaling late at night, pouring out my hurt writing about the play, the essay contest, the birthday that never happened. It eased the ache a little, but the bruise never fully faded. After turning 16, I stopped looking to them for validation. Instead, I turned inward. I sketched video ideas in notebooks, watched YouTube creators build audiences from nothing, and felt a spark ignite. For the first time, I realized I didn't need my family's approval to shine. I could create something of my own, something they couldn't ignore. I didn't know how yet, but I carried that spark, determined to prove I was more than the child they forgot. Looking back, those years shaped me. The pain of being overlooked pushed me onto my own path. I couldn't see it then, but that spark would carry me beyond Madison, beyond the family that never really saw me. Step by step, I kept moving forward, building a life where I would never be invisible again. Amid the shadows of being overlooked, I found a spark in the most unexpected place: art class. I'd always been the kid doodling in notebooks, but that year my high school offered a multimedia art elective. I signed up on a whim, not expecting much, just a break from math and history. The first day, my art teacher, Ms. June Ellis, stood at the front of the room, her eyes bright with energy. "Art isn't just paint and canvas," she said, holding up a clunky camcorder. "It's storytelling, and today, you're the storytellers." I felt a spark, like someone had flipped a switch inside me. Ms. Ellis introduced us to short-form videos, clips under 3 minutes, meant to capture a feeling or idea. She showed us examples: a montage of a kid skateboarding through Madison's streets, a stop motion of paper hearts unfolding. I was hooked. For the first time, I saw a way to say something without needing anyone's approval. I borrowed the school's old camera and started filming random things: leaves falling in the park, my sneakers on the sidewalk, even my dog chewing a squeaky toy. I'd stay up late piecing clips together on free software, fumbling through tutorials. It was messy, but it felt like mine. Ms. Ellis noticed. One day after class, she pulled me aside. "Dawn, you've got an eye for this," she said, pointing to my shaky clip of rain on a window. "There's a local video contest for teens. You should enter." I hesitated. I'd never shown my work to anyone, not after years of my family brushing off my efforts. But her confidence made me think maybe I could do this. She helped me refine a 1-minute video, a montage of Madison's quiet moment: streetlights flickering, kids laughing at a bus stop, a stray cat darting through an alley. I called it Small Things, pouring every ounce of myself into it. The contest was held at the community center with a small stage and rows of folding chairs. I spent the week before tweaking transitions, obsessing over every frame. I told Mom about it over dinner, my voice shaky with hope. "It's a big deal," I said, sliding the flyer across the table. She glanced at it, then said, "Sounds fun, Dawn. Brent's got a mock trial this weekend, so we're swamped." My heart sank, but I pushed it down. I asked Dad later, thinking he might show up. "I've got a work thing," he said, not looking up from his newspaper. Brent just shrugged, already on his phone. I went anyway. Alone, my stomach knotted with nerves. The night of the contest, I sat in the back, clutching my program. Other kids' videos played, some funny, some artsy, all good. When Small Things came up, I held my breath. The room went quiet as my clips filled the screen, a close-up of dew on grass, a slow pan of a frozen lake music I'd found online tying it together. When it ended, people clapped real loud applause. I felt alive, like I'd finally said something worth hearing. Then they announced the winners. First place, Don Murray, the judge called. I froze, then stumbled to the stage, gripping a small trophy. Strangers congratulated me, but I kept scanning the crowd for mom or dad. The seat stayed empty. I walked home that night, trophy in hand, the streets lit by pale streetlights. I'd won, but the high faded fast. My family didn't even ask about it the next day. At breakfast, Mom was busy praising Brent's mock trial win and Dad was on a call. Brent tossed me a cool Dawn when I showed him the trophy, but it felt like an afterthought. I wanted to scream to make them see what I'd done, but I didn't. Instead, I went to my room, opened my laptop, and started editing again. If they wouldn't notice, I'd make others notice. That's when I started my YouTube channel. I called it Dawn's Lens, nothing fancy, just a place to share my clips. I uploaded small things first, expecting maybe 10 views. By the end of the week, it had 100. Comments trickled in, people saying they loved the vibe, the way I captured little moments. One wrote, "This feels like home." I read it over and over, my chest tight with something new pride. I wasn't invisible to them. I kept going, filming more kids playing at the park, a street fair's bright chaos, even a time-lapse of clouds over Madison's Capitol building. Each video was a step away to prove I could matter. Ms. Ellis kept pushing me. She'd check in after class, suggesting new techniques or software. "You're telling stories no one else can," she'd say, handing me a book on video editing. I devoured it, learning cuts, fades, and sound mixing. I'd spend hours in the school's computer lab, headphones on, ignoring the world. My channel grew slowly, 200 subscribers, then 500. It wasn't viral, but it was mine. Every like, every comment felt like a nod from someone who saw me. I didn't tell my family about the channel. Once I tried showing Mom a video with 1,000 views. "That's neat," she said, already turning to answer Brent's phone call. It hurt, but I was done begging for their attention. I'd found something better, a way to create, to connect, to build something they couldn't take away. That contest, that trophy, those early subscribers, they were proof I could be more than the kid my family forgot. I didn't know where it would lead, but I knew I wasn't stopping. When I stepped into college, I carried big dreams. I'd landed a spot in a top communications program at a university in Madison, Wisconsin, with a partial scholarship. It didn't cover everything, so I pieced together the rest with student loans and a part-time job at a campus coffee shop. Mornings meant brewing lattes, evenings meant lectures, and nights were for editing videos on my old laptop. My parents didn't pitch in. They were too focused on my brother's law school. But I didn't need their help. I was chasing a future that was mine alone. My first year was relentless. I juggled shifts, assignments, and my YouTube channel, Dawn's Lens. I posted short clips, dorm life montages, skits about exam stress that pulled in a few thousand views. It wasn't much, but it kept me going. In my second year, I took a digital media class with my professor, Alan Burke. He was intense, pacing the lecture hall, urging us to see beyond the frame. One day, he screened my video, a 2-minute piece, on late-night study sessions set to lo-fi beats. "This has soul," he said, leaning on his desk. "Dawn, you're not just creating, you're speaking." I walked out feeling like I could take on the world. Professor Burke became my mentor. In my third year, he invited me to join a national digital content project, a competition backed by a major media company. It was a big deal. Teams from universities across the country, crafting short campaigns for a nonprofit. I led a group of 4, pitching a series of 1-minute videos on mental health awareness. We spent months storyboarding, filming student interviews, and adding subtle animations. I'd stay up until sunrise, perfecting every cut, my eyes glued to the screen. When we submitted, I doubted every choice. Then the email came: we'd won first place. The prize was $10,000 and a feature on the nonprofit's platform. At the awards event in Chicago, I held a glass trophy, my name in the program. I called Mom hoping she'd care. Nice job, Dawn, she said, distracted. Your brother's closing a big case. I hung up, gripping the trophy tighter. That win fueled me. After graduation, I moved into a tiny apartment in Madison and went all in. I freelanced for local businesses, ads for cafes, promos for shops while growing Dawn's Lens. My channel hit 50,000 subscribers, enough to monetize. I posted vlogs about the creative grind, tutorials on editing tricks. One video, a breakdown of making a viral clip, exploded to 100,000 views. Comments rolled in. Dawn, you're inspiring me to start creating. I'd read them late at night, my chest tight with purpose. Those strangers' words meant more than my family's silence. Later, I had a vision, a company focused on short-form content for brands riding the wave of YouTube and TikTok. I called it Spark Vibe Studio. Starting it was grueling, endless pitches, sleepless nights, and a bank account on life support. I worked from a co-working space, surviving on ramen and coffee. At a tech conference in Milwaukee, I pitched to an investor, Sylvia Grant. She was sharp, flipping through my portfolio with a critical eye. Your work cuts through, she said, leaning forward. Let's make it happen. Sylvia invested $200,000, enough to hire a small team and lease an office. I was stunned. Someone believed in me when my own family didn't. Spark Vibe took off. We created campaigns for local startups, then landed bigger clients, restaurants, tech firms, even a national retailer. My team and I churned out videos that popped, funny, heartfelt, polished for social media. We built a following of 1 million across platforms, with revenue climbing into 7 figures. I'd walk into our downtown Madison office, glass walls, buzzing with energy, and feel like I'd built something real. Clients loved our work. One said our campaign doubled their online sales. That kind of impact kept me up at night, planning the next big project. When a major streaming platform approached us for a buyout, I knew it was time. They wanted Spark Vibe's expertise to boost their short-form content. After months of negotiations, I signed the deal, $18 million. I paid off my student loans first, the relief washing over me like a wave. I was free, no debt, no limits. I'd built an empire from nothing, proving I didn't need my family's approval to succeed. They hadn't reached out in years, ignoring my graduation, my videos, my wins. But I wasn't done yet. I was ready to build a life beyond their shadow. When I met Kyle Sanders, I found my anchor. We met at a coffee shop where I was editing a video between Spark Vibe meetings. He was at the counter ordering a black coffee, his flannel sleeves rolled up, a quiet confidence in his smile. We started talking about work life, Madison's brutal winters. He was a mechanical engineer, steady but warm, and by the end of that chat, I wanted to see him again. We started dating, stealing moments between my late-night edits and his long shifts at a firm. He'd bring me takeout during deadlines. I'd drag him to art fairs, laughing when he faked understanding my video rants. For the first time, I felt truly seen. A year later, Kyle proposed. It was simple, just us on a park bench, the lake nearby shimmering. He pulled out a ring, hand steady, and said, "Dawn, you're my home. Marry me." I said yes, my heart racing, picturing our future. Planning the wedding was a whirlwind. I picked a small garden venue with string lights, perfect for a summer evening. I chose a soft ivory gown, feeling like a dream. I sent invitations to my family, my father, my mother, my brother, hoping they'd show. I called Mom, voice tight. "It's my wedding," I said. "Will you be there?" She paused, then said, "We'll try Dawn. Brent's got a big case." My stomach nodded, but I kept planning, telling myself it didn't matter. The wedding day arrived. I stood before a mirror, adjusting my veil, nerves buzzing. Kyle squeezed my hand, whispering, "You're beautiful." I walked down the aisle, his eyes locked on mine, and for a moment everything was perfect. But as I glanced at the crowd, my family's seats were empty. No dad, no mom, no Brent. I'd held out hope until the last second, thinking they'd show. They didn't. No call, no text, no card. The ceremony went on, vows, tears, applause, but their absence cut deep. I smiled, leaning into Kyle, but inside I was shattering. They'd skipped the day I needed them most. Kyle's family filled the gap. His parents, warm and loud, pulled me into hugs, calling me our Dawn. His sister planned a dance playlist, getting everyone on the floor. After the ceremony, they hosted a backyard reception at their house, picnic tables, homemade pie, laughter. Kyle's dad raised a glass, saying, "To Dawn and Kyle, here's to family." My throat tightened, torn between gratitude and pain. Their warmth highlighted my family's coldness. I'd spent years chasing my parents' approval, but here was a family who embraced me fully. Still, as I danced with Kyle's cousins, my family's absence lingered like a bruise. After the wedding, Kyle and I built a life together. We rented a small house in Madison with a porch for weekend coffee. He'd sketch designs for work, I'd edit SparkVibe videos, and we'd toss ideas back and forth. When SparkVibe hit rough patches, clients delaying payments, a team member quitting, Kyle was my rock. "You've got this," he'd say, pulling me close. I supported him too, listening when project deadlines stressed him out. We argued over small things, dishes, dog walks, but we were a team, something I'd never had growing up. Kyle's family became my own. His parents invited us for Sunday dinners, serving roast and potatoes. His sister called to check in, asking about my latest projects. When SparkVibe landed a big client, they threw a small party with a goofy banner. Their support was everything I'd wanted as a kid. But every time I sat at their table, a quiet ache remained. My family didn't just miss my wedding, they acted like it never happened. I sent them photos, hoping for a spark. Nothing. I called Mom once, asking if she'd seen the album. "It's lovely," she said, then talked about Brent's kids. I stopped reaching out. After selling SparkVibe for $18 million, I paid off our loans, the relief overwhelming. Then I splurged a sleek electric blue Tesla, $120,000, parked proudly in our driveway. I posted a photo on Facebook, not expecting much, just sharing a moment of pride. My family hadn't contacted me in years, ignoring my wedding, my wins. But that Tesla photo caught their eye, setting the stage for something I'd been waiting to face. Living with Kyle taught me family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up, who see you. Kyle cheered my successes, held me through doubts. His parents gave me warmth I'd never known. Yet my family's silence still hurt. Every milestone, our house, 1 million followers, felt bittersweet without them. I'd lie awake wondering why I wasn't enough. Kyle would say, "You're enough for me." It helped, but the pain stayed, a reminder of what I'd overcome. A week after posting the Tesla photo, Mom called asking for a family meeting. Her voice was clipped, formal, like she was scheduling a dentist appointment. "We need to talk, Dawn," she said. "Can you come to Madison?" I froze, my phone heavy in my hand. Years of silence, and now this, because of a car. Kyle sat beside me, his hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to go," he said. But I did. I needed to face them, to finally say what I'd held back for years. The drive to my parents' house in Madison felt endless. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, rehearsing what I'd say. Kyle offered to come, but I told him this was mine to handle. I pulled up to the familiar brick house, the same one I'd grown up in, now feeling like a stranger's. My father opened the door, his face neutral. "Good to see you," he said, as if I'd just been there last week. My mother was in the living room setting out coffee. Brent sat on the couch scrolling his phone. No one hugged me. The air was thick, like we were all holding our breath. We sat around the dining table, the same one where I'd once begged for their attention. Mom started, her voice overly warm. "Dawn, we saw your car. You've done well." I nodded, waiting for the catch. Brent leaned forward, cutting to it. "Ella and Mason need help with college," he said, referring to my niece and nephew, Ella and Mason Gibson. "Tuition's steep, and I'm underwater with my mortgage. You've got the means now." Dad chimed in, his tone matter of fact. "Family steps up, Dawn. That's how it works." I stared at them, my pulse racing. They hadn't called in years, hadn't come to my wedding, but now they wanted my money. I took a deep breath, my voice steady but sharp. You want to talk about family, I said. Where were you when I got married? When I walked down the aisle alone looking for you? Mom shifted her eyes on the table. We were busy, Dawn, she said. Brent had his case. I laughed bitter. You were busy for my entire life. My plays, my contests, my graduation. You were never there. But now you see a car, and suddenly I'm family. Brent rolled his eyes. Don't make it dramatic, he said. We're just asking for help. Dad nodded. You've got millions. What's a little for your niece and nephew? Their words hit like punches, but I was done shrinking. I built my life without you. I said, my voice rising. I won awards, started a company, sold it for $18 million, all while you cheered for Brent's every move. You didn't even send a card for my wedding. Mom's face tightened. We meant to, she said weakly. Meant to doesn't cut it, I snapped. You chose him over me every time. Now you think I owe you, I don't. The room went quiet, their faces a mix of shock and guilt. Brent muttered, You're being selfish? I stood my chair, scraping the floor. Selfish, I said. I've spent years trying to be enough for you. I'm done. I'd planned my next move weeks ago after Mom's call. I'd kept it quiet, even from Kyle wanting it to land hard. You think I'm sitting on that money for myself? I said, pulling a folder from my bag. I'm giving most of it away. I slid the papers across the table, a press release already sent to local news. I'd donated $15 million to a children's education charity funding scholarships for kids who'd never had a chance. This is what family means to me, I said. Helping people who need it, not people who ignored me until they saw dollar signs. Mom's hands shook as she read the document. 15 million, she whispered. Dad's face went red. You're throwing it away, he said. Brent slammed his hand on the table. That could have set Ella and Mason up for life. I met his eyes, unflinching. You set them up, I said. I did this for kids who don't have anyone. You had your chance to be my family. You chose not to. I turned to leave, my heart pounding but lighter than it had been in years. As I walked out, Mom called after me. Dawn, wait, she said, her voice breaking. I paused at the door, not turning. We're sorry, she said. We didn't know how much we hurt you. I wanted to believe her, but apologies now felt hollow, tainted by their request for money. You knew, I said quietly. You just didn't care. I stepped outside the door, closing behind me. The weight of their neglect didn't vanish, but I felt free, like I'd finally reclaimed my voice. Driving back to my house, I thought of Kyle, his parents, the life we'd built. They were my family now, the ones who showed up. The charity donation wasn't just a statement, it was my way of giving back, of turning pain into purpose. News of the donation spread fast. My phone buzzed with messages from strangers thanking me, calling me an inspiration. I didn't need my family's approval anymore. I'd built something bigger than their rejection, and I wasn't looking back. After the family meeting, I walked away with a freedom I'd never felt before. I drove back to my house in Madison, Wisconsin, the weight of years lifting off my shoulders. I'd said everything I needed to lay bare the pain of their neglect. There was no going back. I blocked my parents' and brothers' numbers, deleted their emails, and unfollowed them online. It wasn't easy. Cutting ties with family feels like carving out a piece of yourself, but it was necessary. I was done chasing their approval, ready to focus on the life I'd built with Kyle and the purpose I'd found in giving back. The fallout came fast. I heard through mutual friends that my brother Brent lost his house. He couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments he'd mentioned at the meeting, and the bank foreclosed. My niece and nephew, Ella and Mason, had to move into a smaller apartment with him. Philip and Joan pushed back their retirement plans. They'd been counting on financial help, maybe from me, maybe from Brent's imagined success, but now they were stuck working extra years, taking on side jobs to cover bills. Part of me felt a pang thinking of Ella and Mason caught in the mess, but I'd offered them love for years, sent gifts, reached out. They'd ignored me just like their parents had. I couldn't fix their choices. Kyle was my rock through it all. We'd sit on our porch sipping coffee talking about what family really meant. You did what you had to, he'd say, his hand over mine. You're not responsible for them. He was right. I'd spent my life trying to earn a place in my family, but they'd shown me where I stood. Cutting them off wasn't just about anger, it was about protecting my peace. With Kyle, I had a partner who saw my worth. His parents called me weekly, checking in, sending recipes or silly memes. Their warmth filled the void my family left, proving love doesn't need blood ties. I threw myself into work, but not like before. After selling Spark Vibe, I didn't start another company. Instead, I focused on the charity I'd donated to a foundation for children's education. I started volunteering, mentoring kids who reminded me of my younger self, hungry for a chance, overlooked by the people closest to them. One girl, Mia, wanted to be a filmmaker. I spent weekends teaching her how to edit, watching her eyes light up as she cut her first video. "You're amazing, Dawn," she said once, hugging me. Those words hit harder than any award I'd won. They weren't just validation, they were proof I was making a difference. The community became my anchor. I spoke at local schools, sharing my story of building a career from nothing. Parents and kids approached me after saying I'd inspired them to chase their dreams. One teacher emailed me, "You gave my students hope." I'd read those messages late at night, feeling alive in a way I never had growing up. My work wasn't about views or money anymore. It was about impact. I partnered with the charity to fund workshops teaching kids how to tell their stories through video. Each smile, each thank you rebuilt a piece of me that my family had broken. Looking back, I saw the lesson clearly. My worth didn't come from my family's approval. It came from within, from the choices I made, the people I lifted up. Growing up, I'd felt invisible, always second to Brent. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I'd built a career, a marriage, a purpose, all without them. Cutting them off wasn't just closing a door, it was opening my life to people who valued me. I didn't need their apologies or their pride. I'd found my own. Sometimes I'd drive through Madison, passing places tied to my past, the park where I'd filmed my first videos, the coffee shop where I met Kyle. Those memories didn't hurt anymore. They were chapters in a story I'd written myself. Kyle and I started planning new adventures, travel, maybe a family of our own. His parents joked about grandkids sending us baby name lists we'd laugh over. The future felt wide open, not weighed down by old wounds. I still thought about my family sometimes, wondering if they'd ever understand what they lost. But I didn't dwell on it. I'd spent too long waiting for them to change. Now I was living for me, for Kyle, for the kids, like Mia, who needed someone to believe in them. My story wasn't about their rejection anymore. It was about my strength, my choices, my heart. To everyone watching, thank you for following my journey. It's been raw, real, and not always easy to share. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. Tell me your thoughts, your own experiences. What's your story of finding your worth? And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world, and I can't wait to keep sharing with you. Thank you for being here.